Hello! It's time for another reading vlog. I am reading The Butcher's Masquerade, Dungeon Crawler Carl, Book 5 by Matt Dinniman. I finished Book 4 yesterday. I'm obsessed. We're going to keep this thing rolling. This is going to be a spoiler-filled reading vlog, so if you have not read this book and you don't want things spoiled, you can leave. Goodbye to you. But if you have enjoyed this book, perhaps you will like watching me go on this wild literary journey that is Dungeon Crawler Carl, Book 5. But before I start Book 5, let me just judge this book by its cover. Let me look at the cover art for Dungeon Crawler Carl, Book 5, and try to deduce what it's going to be about. So on the cover, I'm looking at it on my phone, we have Carl inside his vest and bandana combo, in his boxers, holding overhead the head of our favorite sex doll, Samantha. Samantha is a deity that possessed the sex doll of a sand wizard in Book 4, and now she is in the employ of Carl and Donut. I'm not exactly sure where that plot point is going, but that's interesting and it's ridiculous, and it so very much embodies what DCC is all about. We also have Prepopente, I believe that's his name, the goat companion of Miriam Dom, on the cover with Donut jumping next to Carl, and they are being attacked by some praying mantis monsters. Those, if you're going to pick a bug to be a mob, to be something terrifying to encounter in battle, a giant praying mantis would be at the top of the list. Those are very creepy bugs. I can't wait to see how floor 6 goes. It's going to be hunters versus crawlers, and I can't wait to see what this story has in store for me. Welcome to the reading vlog. Just about 10% through the book. What has happened so far in The Butcher's Masquerade? Well, first, Carl has specialized in his class. On floor 3, Carl chose the class of Compensated Anarchist, and now he is specialized to more focus his skills and his interests on mass bombings. So now Carl is going to do what he does best. He's going to create bombs, he's going to infiltrate places, he's going to set them off, and that's going to be very helpful in his struggle against the hunters. I have a special place in my heart for RPG builds where you use explosives. When I played Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, I remember overusing landmines immensely. I use mines, I use traps in all the RPG games that I play because I'm not a very skilled video gamer. I like to focus on the story, and mines and tools and traps have always allowed me to beat parts of the game where I was not that skilled, where I didn't want to focus. I don't want to try so many times to beat a level and grow my skills. I just wanted to use traps and bombs to circumvent a lot of the difficulty and skill of video games. So Carl using explosives throughout the entirety of the series, I relate so strongly to that because Carl's willingness to make things go boom is one reason why he is such a scary crawler. He's a very scary competitor, and why he's been so successful so far. So I really like how Carl is specialized in his class. He has a lawyer now, because at the end of Book 4, Carl has the Gate of the Feral Gods. It's a very overpowered artifact that Carl, Donna, and Katya used to save thousands of crawlers in the previous book. But also they used it to do a lot of damage to the hunters on floor 9. And they did not like that. So they tried to trick him with some vague laws that Carl was unaware of. Carl asked for a lawyer. He gets a lawyer. And so now Carl has this cool lawyer. He's like gray-skinned, beady-eyed alien, the ones that we'd see, portrayed in various forms of media here on Earth in real life. And this lawyer is really cool, and I really like him. Carl and Donut infiltrate the capital city where all the hunters are because the hunters can't leave the city for several hours, so they can't even really attack the crawlers yet. Carl and Donut teleport there, and he sets off a bunch of bombs, and he does a lot of damage, and he almost dies, but who saves him in his darkest hour? Who stops our journey from ending prematurely? Miriam Dom and Prepopente. I knew Prepopente. His name is very hard for me to pronounce. I knew he was going to be in the book. He's the goat person. He is the pet of Miriam Dom, the mysterious Italian lady who, when the dungeon opened, she brought a herd of goats with her. And she's a shepherd, and she's very mysterious, and I'm so interested to see how her characterization unfolds. She's a very intriguing character. I love seeing Carl interact with these other legendary crawlers that he's heard about. And Miriam Dom's going to be the first one besides Hecla in book 3 that I think we're going to see some prolonged exchanges with. And I'm all here for it. Give me some more Miriam Dom and her goat person. Carl just 34 people. I wonder how he's going to deal with that. Well, the interactions between Miriam Dom and Prepopente and Donut and Carl did not disappoint. I can't wait to see more of them in the narrative. Miriam Dom is so maternal and nurturing and weird. She used to be a vegan shepherdess. When the dungeon opened, Miriam took an entire herd of goats with her, and she was just fighting to keep these goats alive. And eventually one of her goats took a magical pet biscuit and became Prepopente, who in many ways, and oftentimes, is the most powerful crawler in the dungeon. And Prepopente, like Donut, is very immature, and very much still getting used to being a conscious individual who has complex thoughts and motivations and interest. He's a little bit more immature than Donut. That's what it seems like at this point. Like him and Carl are about to get into a fight because Prepopente feels insulted and challenges him to a duel. And Carl, calls him by his special name because Prepopente goes by Pony. But only Miriam Dom can call him Pony. So Miriam Dom does the whole school teacher thing where she forces Carl and Prepopente to apologize and give each other a hug. And I loved that scene. Okay, so the plot is starting to take form. We have a main antagonist, a primary antagonist, Vra, they're a mantis person, which explains the mantis people on the cover of the book. Also, we see some carryover from book 2 with the Signet storyline because inside the dungeon, there are other TV show programs that use the dungeon as the stage, the setting to tell their dramas. And Carl and Donut got themselves entangled in one of these dramas in book 2. In Signet, she is not an NPC. She's not a crawler. She is an elite, which means that the studio that is in charge of her can mostly control what she does, but she has some semblance of free will. She makes some choices. So Carl is pondering these philosophical quagmires like, can I tell her that she is not entirely sentient? Can he free her? And if he does free her, what does that mean? Because Carl likes to do that for NPCs. Well, maybe he doesn't like to do that. But Carl, throughout the series, has let NPCs know that they are in a game. And there are a bunch of different responses to Carl revealing that to the NPCs. So I do think he's going to reveal to Signet that she is an elite and she does not exactly have her own free will. Which gets me thinking, do any of us have free will? I believe in it. Philosophers are split on the matter, but Carl is always pondering free will in the DCC books. And I like that. I like philosophy. I'm thinking about doing a video about the philosophy of Dungeon Crawler Carl once I'm up to date with the entire series. I think that could be interesting. If I have to make 9 videos about this series, so be it. It doesn't matter. I have a small booktube channel. It doesn't matter if I make content that the algorithm doesn't really care for. I want to make content that I enjoy. So what is happening? Well, Mongo got lucky, and that was very interesting. Mongo encounters a tribe of velociraptors, and they're all females, and we think that Donut and Carl and Mongo are about to be torn to shreds. But then they start making weird noises, and Mongo and this velociraptor, they do some mating dance and mating stuff. And Donut freaks out. She goes into shock. They have to flee because the velociraptors, they're still Donut and Carl's enemies. And Donut's freaking out, and she's shaking, and she's wondering what will happen if Mongo decides to stay with his own kind. And she tells Carl that everybody leaves me. So then you have the cool cinematic moment where Carl promises Donut that no matter what, he'll never leave her. And she promises the same. And they're feeling a little bit better about that. Which is just building tension because we know that Beatrice is alive. We know that she's going to be introduced in the dungeon or a show in some way or form, and that's going to cause some tension between Carl and Donut. And I love it. I can't wait to see how that unfolds. Donut's now the mayor of this town, Point Mongo. They destroyed the bear person. They defeated the bear person that was the mayor. Now Donut and Carl are defending the city from hunters that will be coming, and they are allied with Signet and her band of people who are doing the other drama's storyline. And that's exciting. Part 1 is done. I just finished the first chapter of Part 2. I'm excited. I'm loving it. I just finished chapter 22. I'm in Sam's Club waiting for our pickup. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not sure I like where Carl's character development is going. Carl is a lovable protagonist, and we love him because he is good no matter what. He has yet to kill a crawler, and we are on book 5. He has struggled with killing NPCs, and when he does have to kill NPCs, he feels great regret. So Carl going all terrorist, guerrilla warfare on the hunters does seem out of character. And I understand that he has been pushed to the edge. And that makes sense. I can relate to that and I can understand that. But Carl's little monologue before he kills a hunter, that seemed very much out of character. I'm not liking that. I'm not liking it. It is compelling. It's very interesting, very entertaining. But there seems to be a disconnect that I'm having in my head, where I look at Carl, the lovable good guy protagonist, the everyman, and now he's becoming something monstrous. Like Donut, she's a cat. Cats do cruel things. Even when cats play, cats don't really play with little things. They pretend they're trying to kill them. So Donut being cruel seems in character because she is a cat. So when the meeting between Beatrice and Carl happens, I almost forgot to mention that, Donut just lays into her. You abandoned us. This is not. You don't leave people you love. You don't replace people you love. You don't even deserve me feeling sad about you abandoning me. And neither of them really get to enjoy Beatrice being alive. And I just don't think that's what Carl would have done. I don't think that's in line of Carl's characterization so far. Carl would have seen Bea, and even if she was being used by people outside the dungeon, by Odette, what have you, he would be happy to see her. I think he would have showed her more empathy. So I wonder how that's going to go. I wonder what's going to happen at the Butcher's Masquerade, where the hunters and a bunch of crawlers are going to be destroyed by a big boss. I wonder how Carl is going to avoid that fate. I wonder how him and all the other top crawlers, Lucia Mar, Miriam, all of his other friends, I wonder how they're going to survive this. Is this going to be the first book where we have multiple named character deaths that we're actually going to care about? Because I did not expect Carl becoming a terrorist. Not what I was anticipating. He's just bombing people, he's torturing people, he's killing people, he's using the evil ring that gives him increased power. I don't know about this. Just finished part 2. Things are picking up. My favorite parts of part 2. I love that Louis has this whole feud going on with the elves, and they're trying to hunt him down because he wanted his shape-shifting girlfriend to turn into this elf queen who is the mother of some of the hunters. That's funny. I'm interested to see how that storyline's going to go. I love Samantha. Samantha's hilarious. I wasn't thinking too much of her as a character in the last book and in this book so far, but the way that Carl's using Samantha in battle, how he's chucking this, this possessed sex doll head into battle, and she's like playing fetch, she's biting them, and then Carl's recalling her, and she brings the people or the thing or the monsters with her. That's hilarious. The way she threatens everybody, super funny. Having like this harmless little head rolling around. I love it. It's kind of like I'm just kind of picturing one of the heads from Futurama helping out on a mission, and that's the feel I get. I like Samantha. She's funny. The other one beautiful scene after the battle where Carl and Donut are assisting Signet as she takes the Dryad castle. which was kind of like a not a very interesting battle. It was just another normal boss battle. The scene where Signet is honoring her fallen comrades by tattooing their likeness on her skin. That was a very reverent, beautiful scene. One of the more beautiful scenes in the series so far. And it added another level of depth to this elite character. Because one of the main themes of Dungeon Crawler Carl is like NPC theory. Who are real people? And Carl is unique amongst most of the crawlers and amongst even other video game people, where he wants to treat NPCs like real individuals. And I relate to that. When I play video games, I can never just hurt NPCs. I feel guilty. I can never be the bad guy in the RPGs that I play. So seeing Carl do his best to be as good a guy as he can, while also kind of going on this rampage with the hunters, is a very compelling, dynamic. But I'm interested to see how Carl is going to unshackle Signet, how he's going to make her self-aware, and what that means. If Carl can make the NPCs and the elites aware that they are in this game, then they're allies. Or at least, tense, people like that are working together towards a common goal. Part 2 ended on a cliffhanger, because if you watched the previous vlog, I've been super excited to see what happens when Carl and Lucia Mar finally interact. Because is she this crazy murder hobo, or is she a revolutionary like Carl? And I'm thinking she's revolutionary. I'm thinking they're going to have a very interesting alliance, and they're going to work together to destroy the Crawl. Or she could just be another antagonist. That would also be compelling, because then will Lucia Mar be the first crawler that Carl has to defeat and kill? Will that put a skull next to Carl's name? I don't know. Either way the Lucia Mar storyline goes, it will be quite compelling. So Carl received a fan box, and in this fan box is a pass to CrawlerCon, and Carl is not a fan of it. He doesn't like the idea of going to the Crawl's version of Comic-Con and being a celebrity and signing autographs, because he thinks the whole idea of the Crawl is evil. But he has to do it because it was in his fan box. And he's trying to get out of it, but he can't. So, right before he's about to be zipped away to CrawlerCon, who is he about to bump into? They walk into a safe room, and Lucia Mar is there. But right before Carl could turn around and see her, he is zipped away. He's beamed away. And that's the cliffhanger. And that's what I'm about to read. I'm worried about donuts. I'm interested to see how the crawl's going to go. It's all very exciting stuff. So, it seems like I might be wrong. In the previous vlog, and in this vlog, I have said that I think that when Carl and Lucia Mar meet, that they are going to be allies. That they are both being portrayed by the showrunners as these crazy, psychotic individuals. And they're both just getting a bad edit. Like when me and the wife watch The Bachelor or Bachelorette, some people just get a bad edit. They're not bad people, but shows need villains. And that's what I thought was the case of Lucia Mar. Turns out, she might just be crazy. And she might just be an antagonist figure. And she might just be someone that Carl is constantly trying to avoid or defeat. And if they're not going to be allies, she has to be the first crawler that Carl kills. And I'm not sure if that's going to be good. Because Lucia Mar, despite the fact that she's crazy and she's the most dangerous crawler in the dungeon, she's still a child. So I hope I end up being right. I hope that Lucia Mar gets taken under Carl's wing, and he starts to teach her, and he starts to help her heal and grow while in this crazy dungeon, circumstance. But who knows? Carl goes to the convention, and it's a crap show. The moderator of his panel is the Mantis Queen lady, who is the mother to a lot of the mantises that are hunting Carl in the dungeon. And, she's not giving Carl an opportunity to speak, so he starts trying to rile her up. He succeeds. And basically, Carl knows that the hunters are getting outside information, that they have an unfair advantage over the crawlers, and he's trying to close up, the loopholes, the way these guys are cheating. And basically, he gets the Mantis Queen, to kind of admit or kind of prove that she is cheating. So Carl's on the panel, and he starts asking the crowd, how am I going to survive this? How am I going to defeat the Mantis people? What is Lucia Marr? How is she doing all these things? So Carl starts to cheat. He gets outside information from the panel, and all these people are conflicted. Because watching the crawlers die, they're lesser people. They're not equal to all the other alien races. So watching them, be violently dispatched is okay. That's entertainment. But seeing people, the hunters, go into the dungeon, people they consider their equals, or at least close enough, they feel conflicted about helping a crawler hunt them down. So Carl pretends like they're all making the plan together, then he teleports back to the dungeon. He goes completely off script because he knew that the cheaters were getting information from the panel, from the group of people. And that was very clever. So now I'm preparing to read the part where they're going to do the recap episode, and we're going to see how Donut killed one of Lucia Marr's Rottweiler companions. I'm excited. 2/3 of the way through the book, and I am feeling quite sad. There was a character death that hit me harder than I anticipated, not just because the death surprised me and I did not see it coming, but because Matt Dinniman has a talent of making character deaths so moving and meaningful, even when these characters did not get a lot of screen time. Objectively speaking, we had less than 4 or 5 pages of Miriam Dom interactions and dialogue. But her death hit me in the feels because it meant something. Not just because Miriam Dom was in the top 10, and she's been in the top 10 for the entirety of the story up until this point. Not just because the shepherd lady that brought her herd of goats into the dungeon is just interesting and compelling, but because she sacrificed herself for Pepperpente, her pet, who's actually more like her son. And they're a very interesting contrast and comparison to Donna and Carl. And it was sad. And when she dies and she's like, goodbye, my son. And Pepperpente, he's paralyzed. He can't do anything to stop her. And then when she dies, he has one of the rings of suffering that Carl has, this ring that's corrupting him in this book. And Pepperpente, in honor of Miriam Dom, he swallows the ring. So in that way, he is superior to Carl, because Carl is giving into temptation throughout the entirety of this book. But Pepperpente realized that this ring misfiring is the reason why he lost someone that he loved. And he got rid of it. And that makes him better than Maggie Mai, because her ring killed her daughter. And she still kept it because the pursuit of power, survival, was more important than her beliefs. And it's seeming like Carl is falling into that trap. But I'm hoping that because he saw Pepperpente choose his values and his morals over power, I hope Carl will get rid of the ring. Carl having this ring makes me feel icky. And I hope upon completing the 6th floor, he gets rid of it. So now, all the crawlers and the hunters have this quest. They have to destroy all these giant undead conglomerate Frankenstein monsters, or everyone on the floor will suffer. And it's interesting. Will Pepperpente sacrifice himself to honor Miriam Dom's memory? Because that would be a beautiful character death. But I really hope he doesn't die in this book. I'm hoping because he's on the cover of the book that it means he's going to be in later installments. But if not, that'll be something beautiful. And even though Pepperpente is weird, and Miriam Dom was weird, and we don't really know them, one of the central themes of Dungeon Crawler Carl is that it's not just the death of humanity that is the tragedy. It is the death of our values and our culture. It's that we're turning against each other, that we're losing our humanity. And Carl, up until this book, has refused to let the dungeon change him. So you're seeing the strength of the human spirit in book 5. And it's beautiful and it's inspiring.
The lighting's horrible, so I'm going to use some cool filter to distract you guys from that. I'm on the last part of the book. I'm about to attend the Butcher's Masquerade. What is the Butcher's Masquerade? I'm not sure. Some sort of party. The top 50 crawlers and their +1s are invited, as well as the remaining hunters. There's going to be a talent and a pet show. Donut's very excited about that. She's been excited about that for the entirety of the book, but now she's a little nervous because she bumped into Ferdinand. Gravy Boat, I think's his real name. He's Donut's paramour from before the dungeon, her feline lover. And Ferdinand, he's Queen Imogen's pet. He's a very powerful boss, and he almost kills Donut earlier in the story, a few chapters ago. So I'm wondering how Donut's going to figure this out. I wonder if she's going to be able to fight Ferdinand, or if Matt Dinniman's going to do the thing where they find a way to save Ferdinand, and they kind of put their relationship on hold for later on in the series, because it would be nice if Donut could get her happily ever after. But of course, I'm just making predictions because that's not going to happen for several years at this point, because the series won't be done for about 3 years. The Butcher's Masquerade is going to be very interesting because we don't know who Queen Imogen is yet. We know she's going to be somebody related to the backstory of one of the various top crawlers, because the people in charge of the people. I'm interested to see who Queen Imogen is. We know it's going to be somebody related to one of the top crawlers, so we're going to get some backstory there. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be heartfelt. And right now, the book is reading like a heist story. Donut, Carl, and company are trying to figure out a way to smuggle in weapons, figure out how they're going to find a way to infiltrate the security system of the castle, so that way they can use their weapons and magic to defeat the rest of the hunters, defeat Queen Imogen, and survive and find the stairwell that's going to be dropped when they kill the queen, because they failed the global quest, the crawlers and the hunters. So now there's these deadly brambles coming from the northeast corner to the southwest corner of the map. Whoever touched the brambles dies. So they're all kind of being squeezed to the corner of the map. So they kind of only have one thing. They only have one thing they could do. They got to defeat the queen, defeat the hunters, survive. It's going to be a bloodbath. Lucia Marvel's going to be there. Probably Quan Chi, Prepopente, all the other named crawlers that we've grown and loved or hated up to this point. I'm excited. Oh, and Signet's going to have something to do with it because that quest isn't done. Tina, the ballerina dinosaur from the dinosaur quest, that's going to be there. That's going to play some part. I don't know. This is my favorite installment in the series so far because it's just so wild. And it's like a fun, complicated, a fun, confusing, unlike book 3, which was a confusing. I don't know how Carl's going to pull this off, but I'm excited to see the craziness that is the Butcher's Masquerade. Oh, I almost forgot. The Zerzura spell. The spell that's going to transport one city from this floor to floor 9. What are the ramifications of that? What's going to happen? Is Carl going to be able to save the changelings? I hope so. So, it looks like Lucia Mar is not evil, and she may not even be crazy. She might just be possessed by other people. She is not alone inside her own head. She does not have control over her own thoughts, her own actions, which makes sense because in the Gate of the Feral Gods, there is a scene where Carl is watching a recap episode, and Lucia Mar is crying, surrounded by the bodies of her fallen companions. And we're thinking, that's not very in character for her. She's the heartless, scary, lady who is a beautiful woman in the day and a gross-looking monster in the night. The most powerful crawler in the game. And everyone at the Butcher's Masquerade, almost all of them have a bone to pick with her. None more than Florin, the shotgun alligator dude. And we think something's about to pop off between them. And Carl's getting nervous, and he sneaks up on them. And he sees Florin give Lucia Mar a hug as she's crying. And he says something along the lines of, "We'll sort it out." And he tells Carl, she's not alone in her own head. There are other people there. We're going to protect her. So we go from running away from Lucia Mar, wanting to defeat her, Carl contemplating killing her for 2 books now, to all of them being on the same page, like, we got to protect Lucia Mar because she's just a kid. And I love that.
Not what I was expecting. Not what I was expecting whatsoever. But the fact that Florin can forgive the girl that killed the woman he loved, it's pretty deep stuff. That's going to turn into something, definitely not in this book because I have like an hour left, but later on in the series, that's going to be quite interesting. I could tell. Tell me why I was crying in the car today, listening to a book about a man and his boxers who fights monsters on an intergalactic reality TV show in a dungeon, accompanied by a Persian cat who can talk and shoot magic missiles, who wants to sing songs, who's raising her pet velociraptor as her own child. Tell me how this book was making me cry in the car. It was chapter 73, 74, both of those chapters. And Signet is talking to Carl, because as I was speaking about earlier in the vlog, Signet is starting to become aware that perhaps she's not a real person. And they're at the Butcher's Masquerade. And Signet is locked in. And she's talking to Prince Donatia, the alien lady who sponsors Princess Donut. And she learns that she's just an elite. She's an NPC. That all the things she's gone through in her life aren't real. That her fallen comrades aren't real. And that her life doesn't mean much. Except it means everything. Even if her life isn't real, it's still something that she's experienced. And then she does this great sacrifice. So that way she's the first person that breaks the peace pact at the Butcher's Masquerade. And it was a very powerful scene. It sent chills down my spine. It was very powerful, very moving for me. Even though it's totally different in subject matter and different genre of fantasy, I remember reading the end of The Great Hunt, the second book in the Wheel of Time. And there's this beautiful scene where all these old heroes are together again. And it was just a scene that was much more powerful than just the words on the page. The scene had aura, it had a presence, it had a soul. And this was the first time reading Dungeon Crawler Carl where I felt like it was an inspired art. And I know that sounds dramatic, but this might end up being my favorite series of all time. And it sounds silly because I've read a lot of amazing books, amazing series, in this absurd little RPG about a man and his boxers and a Persian cat is making me cry. It's pretty powerful stuff. Let's finish it. So I just finished The Butcher's Masquerade, and I loved it. My favorite installment in the series so far. And it's in my top 3 favorite books of 2025. That's for sure. It might even be in my top 2, which is insane when you consider that I've read Lonesome Dove and East of Eden in 2025. I expected to enjoy this book. I did not expect it to be as thought-provoking, or as emotional, or as compelling, or as stimulating as it was. So much happened in the final 120 pages that I kind of regret not filling you guys in as I was reading it, because I'm going to forget to mention some things that I thought was awesome. But that's kind of the weaknesses to the vlog style. I'll make sure to do better for the next vlog. The party was cool. Lucia Marr, we got some more information about her ailment. We know that she's possessed or controlled by someone. We'll figure that out in the next book, I'm sure. Signet's sacrifice had me bawling, had me crying in the car. It was a beautiful, it was like an inspired scene. Matt Dinniman did something really special with that scene. The pet show, Mongo hitting a moonwalk. That was hilarious. Had me laughing out loud. I was not expecting that. I love the narration of that scene. Donut in the talent show singing the song that B would sing to her drunkenly. And everyone just watching her and being charmed. That was something special too. The way Donut was able to avoid fighting Ferdinand by charming him. And because he was charmed when they cast his Azura spell, he's now on the 9th floor. Will he survive? Will Donut get her happily ever after? I hope so, but I don't know. This Azura spell, I was on the edge of my seat. Was Sledge going to survive as the mantises and the elves are like closing in on him? He was able to, and Sledge and all the other NPCs, the changelings, the bear cubs that they adopted randomly in the last part of this book, they're all going to the ninth floor. And I'm worried about them. I hope not too much time passes so that way Carl can be there to save them. That'll be exciting. I'm excited to see how that pays off in the story. The way all the crawlers work together to defeat Queen Imogen and the Hunters, that was inspiring. Very Avengers Endgame-esque. It gave me that type of vibe. But then when they defeat Queen Imogen, they all start getting ready to kill each other over the loot. It just goes to show you that even though it's everybody versus the NPCs and the mobs and the dungeon and the people in charge of the crawl, the crawlers aren't truly allies. They're competitors. And sometimes they'll be allied and sometimes they'll be enemies. And when they're all fighting over the loot, it reminds you of that. When the conjoined golem twin brothers, when they die, it's sad because you meet them when Carl's at the convention and they seem pretty cool. But they chose a race that if they die, they are reborn and they're split into two individuals again. And because children aren't allowed in the dungeon, they're free. So they survived. They're the only ones that have escaped the dungeon that we know of. And that's pretty inspiring stuff. That hit me in the feels. So they go through the tunnel. Oh, I almost forgot one of the main things. Carl and Donut, because Carl owns stock in various companies and he's technically a citizen of the Empire, they are now one of the warlords for the ninth floor because several of the teams have backed out, so now they needed someone to fill the spot. And Carl and Donut, they're in charge of one of the tribes. So they're going to be competing in the clan wars. And that's going to be something special. I don't know how they pulled that off. I'm sure I'll get more information about the world building later on. They go through, the staircase. They go down the stairs. And they're in these floating, containers. And they're with Prepopente. And Prepopente uses the various random, gifts they got from their sponsor boxes to basically break through their cocoon, and they skip the 7th floor entirely. And he does it in honor of Miriam Dom. That was pretty cool. So now we're on the 8th floor, which just goes to show that the series is not going to be as long as Matt Dinniman could have made it. There are 18 floors, and Matt Dinniman is planning on there only being 10 or 11 books. But now that I'm aware, now that I know that crawlers can sometimes skip floors, I know the series will be finished in a timely manner, and that makes me happy because one downside of reading lit RPGs is that many of them have no ending in sight. But Matt Dinniman, he's going to finish this masterpiece in less than 4 years. And that's awesome! I'm excited. And of course, I can't talk about this book without mentioning the last part. The part of the epilogue where we are reading it from Katya's point of view. Katya gets her revenge on Eva. But Eva had a trump card up her sleeve. Before Katya is able to land her killing blow, Eva throws a mysterious crown, a cursed object, onto Katya's head. The same tiara that Donut was wearing, that is going to require her to destroy an entire tribe, to be the only survivor of that tribe if they want to move past the 9th floor. So now, it's either Katya or Donut. And Katya and Donut, they are close, but now they're going to be enemies, if not on the next floor, the floor after that, or Katya will die beforehand. But I wonder how Carl and Donut and Katya are going to navigate that. And I wonder if Katya's tiger boyfriend, because I guess Katya's, she's into furries now, I wonder what that means. Are we going to see all these crawlers that have been working together for the first 5 books? Are they going to start turning against each other? Because the stakes are high, they're building relationships and connections, and they're starting to realize that not all of them could win. I don't know, man. I'm going to be taking like a week or two break from the series, but I will be finished with all the Dungeon Crawler Carl books that are out in the month of August. I will read The Eye of Bedlam Bride and The Inevitable Ruin. It's going to be awesome. I'm enjoying myself with this series. I have not felt the need to binge a series like this ever. I don't binge books like this. I usually savor them, but I can't take my time with these books. I know I'm probably going to reread this series several times before the final installment is published. And it's just exciting. I've never had that happen for me. I've loved reading. I've been a reader for about 6 or 7 years. But I've never felt so drawn to a series. And maybe I'm just reading this series at the right time in my life, but I love Carl, I love Donut, I love the vibe, I love the tone, I love the themes, I love the philosophical things that Matt Dinniman is talking about. It's a very revolutionary work. It's a very fun story that I'm following. And I'm excited to continue vlogging my experience with this series because it deserves all the hype that it's gotten. These books aren't just fun, they are good. The first 3 books are really good, but they're a good time. They're mostly fun reads. But after book 3, they're no longer just a good time. The books are mentally stimulating. They are emotional. They'll hit you really hard in the feels. They're a fun time. The pages just fly by, and every time I finish a book in this series, I'm kind of sad. I'm sad that I'm one step closer to the end. I wish I could reread these books again. And I'm pretty sure that sentiment is only going to grow as I continue on with this literary journey. But I'm all here for it. I have a special relationship to this series, and it's quickly becoming one of my favorite series ever. And I'm pretty sure there's a good chance that when I finish the next few books, it will be my favorite series ever. And I'm going to be so invested in it. Thank you guys for making it to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this reading vlog. I enjoyed filming it. I look forward to talking to you guys again next time. Thanks for watching.